fine, don't do it. You've probably said something like that before, or maybe you've heard this advice.
Just use reverse psychology. Tell them the opposite. They'll do what you actually want.
And sometimes it works. Your child suddenly cooperates. They do the thing you were struggling to get them to do, but other times it completely backfires. They shut down, they escalate, or things get even more complicated. So now you're wondering, does reverse psychology actually work for autistic or ADHD kids? Quick reminder, we are not therapists or professionals. For personalized support, always consult a qualified professional. Today's topic is one that sounds simple but isn't: reverse psychology. Ready? Because this is Kind Parent Collective, less perfect parent, more real one. What reverse psychology really is. At its core, reverse psychology is about saying the opposite of what you want, hoping your child will resist it and do the desired behavior instead. It relies on a child's instinct to push back, to assert control, to prove something. And with some children, especially those who are naturally oppositional or independent, it can seem effective. But that doesn't mean it works the same way for every child. Why it sometimes works. There are moments when reverse psychology appears to work with neurodivergent children, especially when a child is feeling a strong need for control. If they feel like something is being forced on them, they may resist. But if the pressure is removed or flipped, they may re-engage. It can feel like you've unlocked something, like you found a shortcut. But what's actually happening is more about control than compliance. The problem with mixed signals. Here's where things start to get tricky. Reverse psychology relies on saying something you don't actually mean. And for many neurodivergent children, especially autistic children, communication clarity matters a lot. They often rely on direct, literal language. So when the message doesn't match the intention, it can create confusion. They may take your words at face value, or feel unsure about what you actually mean. And that uncertainty can lead to frustration, not cooperation. Trust can be affected. Over time, using reverse psychology can impact trust. If a child starts to feel like words don't mean what they say, they may become less confident in communication, less secure in what to expect. And for children who already struggle with unpredictability, this matters. Because trust is built on consistency, on knowing that what's said is what's meant. When it feels like a power struggle. For some children, especially those with ADHD, reverse psychology can turn into a game of control. Instead of reducing resistance, it can increase it. They may push back harder, test limits more, or become more oppositional, not less. Because the interaction becomes less about the task and more about who's in control. Emotional regulation comes first. When a child is overwhelmed, dysregulated, or frustrated, their ability to process strategy is low. In those moments, reverse psychology doesn't usually land, not because the child is being difficult, but because their brain is focused on regulation, not reasoning. And in those moments, what helps most isn't strategy. It's calm, it's clarity, it's support. Why direct communication often works better. Many neurodivergent children respond best to clear, honest, and predictable communication. Simple instructions, consistent expectations, no hidden meanings. When communication is direct, it reduces cognitive load. It removes the need to guess. And that creates a sense of safety. The need for control is real. One thing reverse psychology tries to tap into is a child's need for control, and that part is real. Many autistic and ADHD children have a strong need for autonomy, but instead of using indirect strategies, it can be more helpful to offer real choices. Not tricks, but actual options. because when children feel they have control in a clear way, resistance often decreases naturally. What works more consistently? Instead of reverse psychology, many parents find more success with giving choices instead of commands, using neutral, calm language, reducing pressure during transitions, acknowledging feelings before redirecting. These approaches don't rely on confusion. They rely on connection, and connection tends to be more sustainable. When reverse psychology might seem harmless, there may be light, playful moments where reverse psychology doesn't cause harm. A joking tone, a shared understanding, a low-stakes situation. But even then, it works best when the child already understands the dynamic and when it's not used as the primary strategy, because long-term clarity and trust matter more than short-term wins. It's not about getting compliance. At the end of the day, parenting neurodivergent children isn't just about getting them to do the thing. It's about helping them feel understood, helping them regulate, helping them build skills over time. Strategies that rely on tricking or flipping expectations may work in the moment, but they don't always build long-term understanding. Shifting the goal. Instead of asking, how do I get my child to do this? It can be more helpful to ask,
what's making this hard for them?
Because when we understand the barrier, we can support the child more effectively. And often, cooperation follows naturally from there. When it looks like it worked but didn't stick, there are moments when reverse psychology feels like a win. You say the opposite, your child reacts. They do the thing. And for a second, it feels like you figured something out. But what often happens next is just as important. The behavior doesn't always repeat the same way the next time, or your child begins to respond differently, less predictably, more resistant, or even more confused. Because while the moment worked, the understanding behind it didn't build. The child didn't learn why the task mattered. They didn't gain clarity around expectations. They simply reacted to the situation in that moment. And over time, this can create inconsistency. Some days it works, other days it doesn't. And that unpredictability can make parenting feel even harder. Because now it's not just about the original challenge, it's about trying to figure out which version of the strategy will work today. When we focus on approaches that build understanding instead of reaction, things may not feel as quick, but they tend to feel more stable over time. And that stability is what helps both you and your child feel more grounded. So, does reverse psychology work for autistic and ADHD children? Sometimes in very specific moments, but not consistently and not always in a way that builds trust or understanding. Here at Kind Parent Collective, we believe that the goal isn't to outsmart our children, it's to understand them. Because when we lead with clarity, consistency, and connection, we're not just solving the moment. We're building something that lasts longer than any quick strategy ever could. And if today was rough, you still did enough. Catch you on the next one.